Hello YouTube, this is Frugal, and here we are back in Orbx's Tapini scenery at Ononge, which is the last airport that we landed at, or airfield that we landed at. This Lancair legacy from RealAir simulations is really growing on me. It's rapidly becoming my favorite aircraft. I just love this thing, it's so cool. It's not simple to fly, it's easy, but not simple. You need to have your wits about you, especially in environments like this, where this is not the ideal aircraft to use. The idea would be de Havilland Twin Otter or something like that. But I am digging this. I'm having so much fun. Anyway, you will remember that here at Ononge, it was kind of an interesting landing because it's uphill on a sloping runway which turns to the right. So when we take off, we're going to be going downhill and we need to turn left about halfway down the runway, which is interesting and a bit of a challenge. Now the place we're going to is Kosipe or Kosipe. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. I'm going to call it Kosipe. Kilo Oscar Sierra India Papa Echo is how you spell it, or KSP is the code. Now KSP was not in the Flight1 GTN 650 that I'm using, so I had to set a user waypoint. The way I do that, actually I cheated. I set my aircraft to start at Kosipe and then I set a user waypoint for my current position. That's how I created that waypoint. But we're going there, and it is, so far for me, you know, if you've been following this series, you've seen me land at some crazy airfields in this Tapini scenery pack. Really challenging airfields. A couple of times it was almost impossible to actually see the runway until the very last minute. They're uphill, they're on ridge lines, in dangerous mountainous terrain. Very challenging. Kosipe is nestled in a valley next to a river, and it's pretty much on the ground and flat. And it's the only one I've crashed at. I've actually crashed at it 2 times now. This is the 3rd attempt, and the reason I've crashed at it is it's very misleading. It's a very flat runway, but it's short, and because it's nestled in a valley, it's very hard to maneuver. So actually trying to get the aircraft in a stable approach to land there, for me, has proven to be a bit of a challenge. But I have a plan. I have a cunning plan, in fact. I'm going to make use of the Flight1 GTN 650, which I haven't really done yet. All I've been doing is direct to and flying from A to B without really using the features that it has to offer. Today we're going to use some of the features it has to offer. I'm going to show you how to create a user waypoint to set up the approach into that particular airfield. But first, let's go ahead and get this thing set up. It's a very short flight, which is why I'm going to do the whole setup right here. And we'll start running through the pre-flight cockpit check. So parking brake needs to be set. All switches need to be off. I have EZDoc running for my views, so I'm going to go through these switches, make sure they are all off. The panel lights can go off right there. Fuel boost is off. Landing gear switch should be down. I'm still flying with the Thrustmaster Warthog, and I have a switch for that. That's the clicking sound that you hear. Battery switch now can go on, and we'll go monitor the VMC 1000 startup. Now, a number of aircraft, been flying the Texan lately, trying to get the review ready for that, and they talk about airfield manifold pressure. That would be that. So with nothing running through the engine in an aircraft, once you powered it up and you're looking at the gauges, the pressure that you see there is the airfield manifold pressure, so 24 inches manifold pressure. Fuel quantity, we're only running 30% on each tank, so just under a third on each tank. It's going to be a very tricky takeoff. It's a short runway here at Ononge and very hazardous, so running less than half the tanks here. We'll test the annunciator warning system. Good, all those lights came on as they should. Trim tabs set to 0. I think they already are. Yeah, see these two are centered, that one's centered, and that one is centered. And the altimeter, we need to set that up. Well, I can't do that until I've got the avionics on, because I need to call Active Sky Next and get the ATIS. So that's the next add-on that's running, is Active Sky Next. So before starting, canopy closed and locked, yes it is. Harness and rudder panels adjusted, yes they are. Flight controls full and free movement. Yep, we're all good there. Circuit breakers all in. Fuel selector should be on both, which it is. Now the engines start. So, let's change my views here. Fuel boost pump can go on. Throttle, we're going to crack it about 1/4 of an inch. There. Prop control needs to be full forward. Mixture fully rich. And now we run through actually starting it. So we're going to move this. We're not actually. There's a thing missing. I'm going to make a note. I always miss this. Let me put in here lights. Before you start an aircraft, you really should have something on to let people know that you're about to start it. So nav lights can go on. Great. So starter switch. Right, left, both. Clear. That started up very well. Fuel boost pump now can go off. We'll go over here and we'll monitor the VMC 1000. You can see the oil pressure is good, temperature is rising. We'll keep an eye on that. It actually says here lights is required after start. Well, I'm going to cross that out on the checklist. I want my light to be on, my nav light at least to be on prior to the start. Engine readings are within limits. Looks like the temperature of the oil is pretty much stabilized. So I'm going to spool this up to about 1500, 1600. And I'm going to lean it using the exhaust gas temperature method. So I'm going to keep leaning, watching that temperature rise until it starts to drop. Then we'll go 50 degrees less than the maximum. So it's rising at 750 there. So the maximum is 750. So if we lean this at 700, we're pretty much good. So engine readings are within limits. We're going to bring back the power now, let this idle nicely. And we'll continue on our way with the switches. So avionics master now goes on. Sorry, alternator switch goes on. Avionics master goes on. And we'll start powering up the avionics systems. The Garmin GTN 650 doesn't have an off switch, so that just comes on its own. I'm going to put this on out straight away. And we'll power up the GPS here. It's going to give me a message saying it's licensed to me. Okay, so I've already got 122.00 dialed in on the standby COM 1. So we'll flick that to active and we can listen to the ATIS.
Alpha Yankee Papa Yankee Airport information Charlie 000 Zulu weather wind 044 at 5 visibility 10 sky condition 1800 scattered temperature 31 dew point 25 QNH 1011 advise on initial contact you have information Charlie Alpha Yankee Papa
Alright,
Yankee
so we're going to have
Airport.
a crosswind when we land. I'll explain why in a second, but it was 044 at 5 I think it was 1011. Let's just press the B key to be sure. There we go. So QNH is set. The place we're going to, Kosipe, has a single runway. It's 30 and 12. The direction that we're going to land in, the only direction I've found that seems to be useful is a heading of 30. So at a heading of 30 with the wind coming from 44, we are going to have a slight crosswind. Should be just fine though. But what I am going to do right now is I'll reset my view up to pilot and command here. We'll pop open the GPS and I will show you how I'm going to use this. So we're actually going to set a flight plan. So we're currently at Ononge, so we'll get rid of this one. We'll remove that. Remove, add waypoint. So I already set custom waypoints you saw in the previous two videos. So there's that one. And the next waypoint is going to be another custom waypoint that I created, which is Kosipe. There. So that's our flight plan, but we're going to make a custom waypoint, which is the approach into Kosipe. Now, if the runways are 30 and 12, we can actually say that our approach is on a radial 120 from Kosipe. Now, I know that the terrain around there is very mountainous and very tricky, so I'm going to put it about 3 miles out, and I'll show you how to do that right now. So we'll scroll on down, waypoint info, and we're going to create a waypoint. I'm going to call this user 000, it's a temporary waypoint, and the position, well, the reference waypoint is Kosipe. So K, there it is, right there. The radial is going to be 120, enter, and the distance is going to be just 3 miles, enter. We'll go back and we will create this. So we have a user waypoint on a heading of 120, 3 miles away from the airport. That's going to be our approach, our final approach fix almost. So now we'll go back into the flight plan, click on Kosipe and insert something before that, which is our user waypoint, US, there it is, 000, Kosipe, 120 degrees, 3 miles, that one. Great, and if we go look at the map now, you should see all that. So if I zoom out a little bit up here, come on, out you get. Wow, I've zoomed in a lot. You see we're going straight up here, there we go, and then turning left, and this, if we turn to a heading of 300 at that point, that will put us on finals to the runway. Now the runway itself is 6,300 feet up, so we need to be about 7,300 feet here. However, there is a ridgeline right here, which is going to make that tricky. I think we need to be above 8,000 at this ridgeline, so it might be a sharp descent down to this waypoint. We'll see when we actually get there. For now, I'll get rid of that. That's all set. Let's go ahead and set up the autopilot. Again, not planning to use it. Excuse me. but I do find it useful to have it set up and available. So 10,000 feet just to clear all of these mountains once again. Great, and vertical speed to get up to 10,000 feet is going to be 1,500 feet per minute this time. We're quite light. That's all set. Now we don't have to run through the taxi checklist because we're not really taxiing, we're already on the runway and we're actually good to go. So we'll do the engine run up very quickly. Parking brake should be set. Let's just check on that, which it is. So let's drop down here. We'll put the throttle up to 1500 RPM. Slow and smooth. Don't want to just jam the throttle forward. There it is. Now we'll check the prop. That's all good. And now we'll check the mags. So we'll dial this down to the left mag. Puts us down to 1460, which is within limits. Back to both. Should go back up to 1500, and it does. Now the right mag, 1460, and back up to both. So magnetos have been checked. Engine readings are within limits. We have already leaned for takeoff, so the throttle now can go to idle. And I must not forget at this point to set the trim for takeoff, which is going to be full back. Not typical trim that you would use on a flat runway at Gatwick or something like that, but for where we're at, full back trim. And that's full. So we're all set there. Now I am going to need about 20 degrees of flaps to get out of here as well. So we'll put the flap lever down 3 times. Good. Flaps are set. Before takeoff checklist, autopilot, check that it's off. It is off, but it is set up. Prop control, fully forward. Mixture, rich, no, we're going to leave it lean. Canopy, check that it's secure. It is. Harness is tight. Lights and strobes now can go on. And they are ready for the takeoff. So let me position my feet on the rudder pedals. Flying today with the MFG crosswinds, which I very much love. So glad I bought these. Okay, so I'm good. I'm a little nervous, but I'm good. So I'm going to turn track IR on, reset my view, and we'll slowly increase power towards maximum. Let the engine catch up with us. Don't want to just jam it forwards. I am going to get an engine warning, but it will go out halfway down the runway. There, brakes off. Using the free castering nose wheel, so to steer I need to apply differential braking, and I do need to steer. There's our engine warning. It will go off as the airspeed increases. It's slight left turn there. How crazy is that? Now stay off the brakes to let the speed come up, which is tricky. Okay, back pressure on the stick, and we are airborne. Positive rate, kinda. It's actually negative rate, but we're flying. Gear up. We'll start bringing these flaps in now slowly. I'm going to bring the prop back to about 25, just to reduce some stress on the engine here. Next stage of flaps can go up. And as always, I'll trim this for about 110 knots, which is just the rate of climb that we need. So having taken off at this point, we can actually turn those landing lights off. Watching the artificial horizon to stay level, because the mountains do not give an accurate view of where we are and where we should be. It's a little windy up here, getting blown around a touch, nothing crazy. We're just under 110 knots, so I'm going to put some forward trim in, bring that nose down, and try to reach our 110 knots that I want. It should be about there. Still climbing nicely. Heading to the clouds, but that's okay. We've got the GPS running, we've got the autopilot set up. I'm not worried about the clouds. I will get a terrain warning if I veer a little bit too far off course. I'm trusting my instruments that I have available. I'm pretty good right now. Just stay level, nice level climb. 2,000 feet per minute rate of climb, which is better than I expected. Entering the cloud here. This is Rex Soft Clouds, as always. Rex 4 Texture Direct for the rest of the textures, and Active Sky next, producing the weather, as you heard from the A-test call at the start. 7,800 feet. I'm not going to lean anymore yet. I'll wait till we get up to about 10,000 before I lean this again. We are heading very much away from our course, but that's fine. I know that I need to clear mountains here. So I'm just going to keep it straight, keep it climbing, and not worry about maneuvering until we reach 10,000 feet. Coming out of the cloud now, which is quite a stress relief. Getting a little anxious there. I don't like flying in clouds in this kind of terrain. I did that once on a live stream actually, which went down in history. I very arrogantly said I'd be fine flying in cloud in terrain just like this and flew into the side of a mountain. Not going to do that today. 8,900 feet. Now actually I am going to turn on the autopilot. I want to show you how the autopilot works with this. Because I've got everything set up, we'll turn the yaw damper on. Come on. We'll turn the autopilot on. And it's actually a really slick implementation and integration of the Flight1 GTN 650 and the RealAir Simulations Lancair Legacy's autopilot. It will trim the aircraft and get the aircraft, this is a cool thing about the autopilot here, get the aircraft completely configured for straight and level flight. As long as you have everything set up properly. As we approach 10,000, I'm going to turn the oxygen on. Somebody said in a comment, don't need to do that. Yeah, you do. Because in this simulated aircraft, it will start putting in the effects of hypoxia if you don't do that. I know in the real world you probably don't need to be as meticulous as getting oxygen on at 10,000. But in this simulated beast, yes, you do. As we come up on 10,000 feet here, going to bring the RPM back to 2,400. Come on. There. And watch, it'll start bringing in the trim now. You see this? Let me change the view and you can see it. See the trim working its way slowly up to set this aircraft up for straight and level, which is amazing. Very happy. Very, very happy with that. So now we're up at the RPM we want, the manifold pressure we want. I'm going to start leaning the engine once again. Watching that exhaust gas temperature reading. Once it starts to drop, we'll go 50 degrees less than the maximum. So it's going to be about 1450, 1460 this time. About there. Good. I'm happy. And we're back in the clouds, but we are at a safe altitude, so I'm not really bothered. With the autopilot on, I'm going to pop outside and you can take a look at the aircraft. I haven't really done a good view of this aircraft on these flights, because I don't tend to use the autopilot on them. But with the autopilot running today, here we can. It is beautiful. It's so beautiful. It's really growing on me. Almost Spitfire-like on that nose. Love it. Relatively cheap aircraft to own as well. It's a kit aircraft that you can buy pre-made or you can build yourself. Alright, so we are 13 miles away from the user waypoint we set up, which is our approach. So at about 10 miles away, I'm going to start descending down towards 8,500. We'll clear the ridgeline that's hidden behind this cloud, and then we'll descend further down to 7,000 and turn on final, I hope, and everything this time will go swimmingly well. I'm certain. Absolutely certain. Not going to have any problems, I promise. I hope. Beautiful scenery. Once again, this is Orbx's Tapini scenery. The reason I'm doing the tour here is Orbx's Tapini scenery comes with 6 airports, or airfields. All of them bush, all of them very tricky to get in and out of. All of them a wonderful challenge, and I thought, what better excuse for a series of videos than to just explore every airport in the scenery pack. So I think this is the 4th flight, so we have 2 to go. And a number of people have said that I need to get, I think it's Port Moresby, I need to get the scenery for that and fly there as well. So we'll probably do that. Okay, 9.7 miles, so I'm going to bring the power back now. I'm going to turn the autopilot off and the yaw damper. And we'll fly this manually from this point. Let me just zoom in. Okay, good rate of descent. I'm going to need to trim it so we don't start dropping like a stone there. And that will let our speed come down as well. You can already see the ridgeline ahead. See this? Above 8,000. From bitter experience. The runway is actually over here. You can't see it yet. It will be very clear once we get close. Runway. Again, it's an airstrip. It's not really a runway. Just trimming again. Because I'm holding back pressure on the stick, so I'm just applying trim until that nose starts to move up. Then I know I've got enough. And we're going to take our time and do everything right. So with us descending now, we can turn the oxygen off. Landing lights can go back on. I will enrichen the engine a touch, which I just did. Again, a bit more back pressure, bit of trim. There we go, that's enough. Still descending nicely. We are 5 miles away from our final approach fix. Again, there's that ridgeline that we're looking to clear. That's why I'm not being too aggressive with the descent. I'm a little off course. We're just letting the aircraft settle and drift a little bit to the right. 8,600 feet. I think we're going to level off at about 8,500, which will be now, to bring back the power. And then it's going to be a fairly rapid descent after that ridgeline just to get down where we need to be, because we're only 4 miles away at this point. But the cool thing is our speed is already being managed very, very nicely. This is a slippery aircraft. It likes to really pick up quite a lot of speed and does not like to shed it at all. I'm a little low. I've not got terrain warnings yet on the Flight1 GTN 650, so I'm confident I'm okay. There we go, speed's down nicely. It's good first stage of flaps. We are only 3 miles away from that turning point, which means I need to adjust my trim again. Bit of a balloon there. Here's the ridgeline that we need to clear. I'm starting my descent again because drawing a diagonal line from where I am would put us down over the ridge nicely. And again, trusting my instruments, trusting that the Garmin is going to yell at me if I suddenly do something terrifying, which is probably very foolish. Runway is over there somewhere. But I just had that brainwave this morning of, you know what, Pete, you could set up a custom waypoint if you extend the center line from the runway, which would make life a lot easier for landing there. Now it is a VFR only airfield, and we are already not VFR conditions, but I am confident we're going to pop out of this cloud shortly. We're still descending. Go next stage of flaps. It does want us to turn right now. We're actually off course. I'm actually going to be going wrong. So starting my turn, watching my rate of descent. There we are. And the runway should be around here. There it is on the left. So, more flaps, gear down, prop full, 7,500, so we're about 1,000 feet, just over 1,000 feet above the runway. A bit of power now to slow this descent. Wonderful. We're not lined up, so we do have a bit of time to manage this altitude and this speed and really get the approach a little more stable than it currently is. So trimming, trimming, trimming. Just over 90 knots, which is a pretty good speed. You can see the runway pretty clearly now, I hope. Recenter track IR there, that's what that squeaky click sound was. Train ahead, of course. Train that we wish to collide with in a controlled fashion. Alright, coming down 6,800. 500 feet to go. Wind is playing a factor. A little. 6,600, 300 feet to go. I'm going to come off the power a little bit here. That's a short runway. Very short runway. Ooh, already here, wind on the airframe. Going a little bit long, but that's okay. It's not crazy yet. Alright, cutting the power. So the speed brakes out. And we're down. Alright. Toe brakes now. I'm trying to reach around to get the flaps up. Only just because I was a little hesitant on those brakes. We did not hit the fence. Let me prove it. Let me go outside here. We kind of have a wing covered in grass. But look, I turned very much within that fence. That's nuts. Anyway, let's move away from the fence here. Let's bring in the brakes and we'll bring the flaps up. Oh gosh, that was close. I was a little hesitant on the toe brakes, which is why that happened. I should have been a bit better. Ooh, that was close. But we made it. I'm overjoyed because that's the first time. You see what I mean? No, it's deceptive. Because you can't maneuver. You have all these hills here. You cannot maneuver at all. It's pretty crazy. Okay. After landing, flaps up, trims. We're going to reset the trims back to 0. Don't need to go on the ground frequency, there really isn't one. We'll go parking brake on. Alright, reset my view, lock track IR. And we'll start cycling through all this stuff. So I'm going to turn all the avionics off at this point. So that one, that one, that one, that one. Whoops, off you get. I don't know how to turn this one off, so I'm not going to. So, shutdown. Parking brake is set. Battery is checked. We'll leave that on for now. Avionics now can go off. Throttle idle. Fuel boost pump off, which it currently is. Mixture to idle cutoff. I'm going to do that right now. Starter switch goes around to off. Battery off. Obviously the alternator can go off. And we can set these fuel tanks here to off. In fact, we can go ahead and get some air in here and open the cabin. Welcome to Kosipe. So that's it for this next leg of the Orbx Tapini tour. A little bit close, a little bit, I tightened a little bit at the end, but we made it. We didn't collide with anything, I didn't crash. I'm pretty happy with that. Anyway, as always, my name is Frugal. Thank you so very much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you very, very soon.